Good evening and welcome to the April 1st, 2021 Parks and Recreation Commission regular video meeting. I am Rory Westberg, Parks and Recreation Commission Chair. In accordance with Proclamation 20-28.10 and the Governor's Extended Safe Start Order, tonight's Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this evening. City staff Ryan Daly, Jason Kintner, Paul West, Merrill Thomas Schatt, Katie Herzog, Council Member Liaison Jake Jacobson, and Consultant Emily Moon are participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members are listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Welcome to all and thank you for joining us tonight. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones and staff, would you please call the roll?
Chair Westberg.
Here.
Vice Chair McCarthy.
Here.
Commissioner Richter.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner Gualtieri.
Here.
Commissioner Birkenwald.
Here.
Commissioner Struck.
Here.
Great. Commissioners, before we start the business of tonight's meeting, I want to suggest the usual rules to help the meeting run smoothly. If a commissioner has a question, please use the raised hand feature. I will do my best to recognize each commissioner in the order in which hands are raised. Everyone will be asked to limit him or herself to one question and to one clarifying question if necessary, so that each commissioner has a chance to ask a question before a commissioner is given another chance to ask a question on the same issue. Additionally, prior to speaking, please state your name for those listening in on the meeting. Tonight's agenda will not include in-person public appearances in accordance with Proclamation 20-28.11 and the Governor's Extended Safe Start Order. However, individuals wishing to speak live during the appearances portion of our meeting may do so by telephone or using the Zoom teleconferencing application, provided, however, they registered their desire to speak with city admin staff by 4 p.m. today. And my understanding is, and city staff can confirm this, that no one signed up. So we have no public appearances. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner or Chair Westberg, I would like to note that one email was received and forwarded on to the commission for your review.
Correct. And thank you for doing that. So our first item of business is to review and consider approving the minutes from the March 18, 2021 meeting. I'm sorry, both the March 4th and the March 18th, 2021 meetings. May I have a motion to approve minutes for those two meetings?
I'll make that motion. Don Cohen.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. Amy Richter.
Thank you, Commissioner Richter. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones. Will city staff please conduct a roll call vote of the motion to approve the minutes?
Chair Westberg.
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy.
Aye.
Commissioner Richter.
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen.
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri.
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald.
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The second item of business is an update on the recreation reset plan. For this item, we welcome Transition Team Manager Ryan Daly and Consultant Emily Moon.
Good evening, Parks and Recreation Commission. I am Ryan Daly, and I will actually just hand it right off to our consultant, Emily Moon. So Emily, take.
Great, I'm gonna share my screen and we'll get started. Ready, everybody? Okay. I don't have very many slides tonight. We went through the bulk of this on March 18th, but this is the regular business meeting where you get to act on it. So that's the primary focus tonight. So tonight, we're asking for your endorsement of the reset strategy that we have built over the last several months with your help, and to recommend that City Council consider and endorse that strategy and also allocate the resources that would be necessary to implement at least the first phase of it. We expect, as we've talked about, to go back to them periodically and often in concert with the overall city budget development to implement other phases. And then we'll talk briefly about what's going to happen on April 20th with that joint meeting, which is a study session of the City Council. That's where the plan will be presented to City Council, and it will be an opportunity for commission members and City Council members to discuss it with each other, engage. So the draft strategy was reviewed by the commission on March 18th. We didn't receive any substantive edits at that time. We did ask, there were requests for a couple additional examples to be given. We've made those edits. And then we still have a few, what I'm calling Scrivener's edits that need to be made. And in particular, there are a couple places where when we've done the red line version, bullet points are still not appearing the way that they need to. There's an example that is missing for senior services relative to social or human services that we wanted to provide to you. And also there's a word not that is appearing in a sentence where not should not be there. And so we're going to remove that. In particular, that's a sentence that says all fees and policies are not consistent with the new pricing strategy. And it should say they are consistent. So that's something that we've discussed. And so I've treated as a Scrivener's error. And as you take action tonight and hopefully endorse the strategy, we will make those last cleanup edits before it gets sent over to City Council in the April 20th packet. I wanted to just highlight a few pieces about the accelerated phase one. We showed you two options on the 18th. We showed you a phase one that was part of the multi-phase reset plan. And then you had asked us to prepare more of an accelerated phase one. And we showed you which of those programs and services we thought we could speed up the development of, hiring of people, the delivery of those programs and services. And that's what we call the accelerated phase one. And so tonight, I'm going to remind you that we'll be including that in the recommendation to City Council. It's my understanding that it's your desire prior to this vote tonight that you would like to forward the accelerated plan. And this will require some additional resources. We're still in the process of evaluating exactly what those resources are, how they fit with what the City Council had already set aside for possible recreation funds in the 2021 budget, what additional might be needed, and what might be needed into early 2022. But as we shape that up, we're expecting to bring that back perhaps in May. On April 20th, we're anticipating asking the City Council to appropriate that set aside for recreation. So the kind of reserved funds that were identified as part of the 2021 budget, but they were not appropriated to recreation. So there's a formal step that City Council needs to do to allow it to be spent at this point in time. So that's going to be the ask that we're recommending on April 20th. So although in your packet for this evening, we gave you an indication, even down to like the position title that we may ask for, we will not be asking for those direct and finite pieces on April 20th. We'll be coming back, we anticipate, in May to the City Council to give them a better understanding of all the bits and pieces and exactly how much we need. So it's our intent tonight to have you act on a motion that simply recommends that City Council approve resources that are necessary to implement Phase 1 accelerated. I show this quote that was in our one of our January presentations, just as a reminder. I think as we get very excited to move forward and leave the pandemic behind and start to deliver high quality services to the community again, it's going to be really important for us to continue to stay focused in our requests of City Council, and as we hire staff, as we train those staff, as we build out the work plan for the next year, to stay focused on the fact that we have a new strategy that is going to help us to be successful in the long run. But in order to get there, we have to be a little systematic about implementing that strategy. So by design, as we've talked about, we're trying to focus first on building the foundation. So those core services that are part of public and social good, and then the core services that are part of the business sustainability core. So business sustainability is going to be the economic engine that helps to supply, hopefully, some revenue to support the public social good core services that we want to provide. If we get those two pieces going, then we should have this strategy on the right track. All right. So on April 20th, we will present the strategy. All of you have heard a lot about it, and so I will apologize in advance. We'll review a little bit. I'm going to assume that City Council members will have read it from start to finish and have had an opportunity to absorb it. So we will do a high-level review of it, both for them and for any members of the public that are watching the meeting from home. And then we will open it up. We'll ask you if you have any comments that you want to relay to the City Council, or if you have questions that you want to ask of them. It'll be an opportunity for more back and forth, since it's a study session format and not one of their regular business meetings. It's a little less formal in that regard. And it will also be an opportunity for the City Council members, of course, to ask any of the Reset team members questions, or any of you as commission members. Last piece that I wanted to mention will happen on April 20th is we're anticipating having a separate memo go to the City Council that spells out a similar but smaller request for Arts Council. And I wanted to give you tonight a little heads up on what I'm anticipating they will approve on April 14th. So I think the request on April 20th will be similar to what we're doing on the rec side, where we will ask for some of the set aside funds of the city to be dedicated to implementing some first phase of arts programming or arts services. And right now I'm anticipating that they are going to ask for some funding to develop a plan and carry out a special event, for example, in late summer or early fall. Second thing that they've been talking about doing is getting the art gallery up and running at the community center. And so I anticipate will ask for some funds to make that happen. Then after the study session is done, on regular business, they'll have those two items to act on: the reset strategy, hopefully to take action to endorse it, a second coupled motion to allocate the reserved funds for recreation in the implementation of phase 1 or accelerated phase 1, and then another motion, separate business item for the Arts Council. So that's what we're expecting on April 20th. All right, this is a not so fluid transition. Little sidebar, I wanted to just mention what we're busy working on right now. Between now and April 20th and the meetings in May with City Council. So we're building out a a picture of what the organization of recreation in the community center might look like in the future. Think 2024 maybe and beyond. And so I wanted to show you a sample of a functional org chart that we're contemplating right now. This is draft, but these are the big task responsibility areas that we think are necessary to support the strategy. So you see we have this business and operations and administration kind of function. In that, we think there's ownership and direction around systems, procedures, policies, performance measurement and reporting. And then there will be functions related to marketing and communications that serves the whole division, and support of the council and commission. And then we have two branches, one that deals with programs and partnerships going forward. Partnerships in particular will be extremely important to the success of the division. We've talked about that a lot, whether that is reaching out to community partners who may be expert providers in a certain area, or the contractors that we work with to deliver programs and services. It's also establishing relationships for future donations and sponsorships. So that's a big bucket. We also have included volunteer coordination and city special event coordination. Little footnote on city special event. Right now, what we're meaning in this functional org chart are those special events that are related to recreation, that recreation is putting on, or that are being hosted, say, at the community center. Then on the facilities and customer services side, that's everything that has to do with physical assets where programming may occur. First and foremost, that's community center, but there are other places like parks that have some capital assets that this group will be involved with going forward. It's also the annex building, which I know you will be talking about here pretty soon, next to the community center, and collaboration with the parks maintenance group, since there is a very close relationship between recreation and parks. And then customer service function, everything that the front desk does to support users, participants, and administration. So that's a big function. And then custodial services is also listed there. So that's one piece that we're working on. I've listed a few other things that we're busy working on the right hand of that slide, but we're certainly not slowing down. So at this point, I will ask if there are any questions or comments from commission members. And then really the last slide is just the motions that we've previously provided to you.
Commissioner Cohen.
Don Cohen, thank you. I was a little bit struck by the evolution of the wording in motion number 2. I understand why you changed from specifying positions and titles. I understand that. But for example, this one now says recommended city council consider allocating all resources necessary. The earlier ones, and in fact, even in Ryan's description this morning in his email, it said requesting the council provide appropriate resources. There were some other things, sufficient resources or all resources needed. And to me, again, I don't know what the commission would want to do, but I assume somebody put in consider allocating to soften it and respect the city council's role or something. But an alternative might be recommend that the city council allocate all resources necessary. And again, I don't know which way I feel or whether it's really important or if I'm just wordsmithing, but I was struck by it. And Emily, when you were speaking a minute ago, you didn't use the word consider until you got to this slide.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. I don't think there was too much thought that was put into those individual word choices. To me, the end result, the outcome, the desire for council to act is the same. I think you're right. Consider just gives a nod to the fact that the Parks and Rec Commission is an advisory group. So you're asking for them to do something, but there's absolutely no heartburn on my part, and I'm sure council wouldn't have any either if you wanted to drop that word and make that motion stronger. If there are concerns about, I will say the more substantive piece of the motion, what the motion is aiming to recommend or to do, then I'm happy to entertain those questions, but the motion maker can elect to strike that word.
Councilman Jacobson.
Let me give you a little bit, first of all, an apology. I don't mean to intrude on your guys' consideration of all these things, but let me give you a little perspective from the city council and maybe what you may expect. With respect to item number 2, I know that the council will say, well, okay, how much are we talking about? And I believe that those will require a budget amendment to do from a procedural standpoint. I could be mistaken about that, but I'm pretty sure that we will have to do that. And I also believe that if a budget amendment is forthcoming on the 20th, that city council would be inclined to approve it and cut and reduce the extent of the process on this. Because if you do it, if it comes on the 20th, then there's sometime in May we get around to it, and this just pushes stuff out into the future, I think unnecessarily. Now, that's my opinion, but I've been on the city council now for 16 months or something like that, and I kind of know how my colleagues think. And so I point those things out for your consideration to decide what you want to do. I'd make one other point, that is that the ease of the city council signing off on number 1 will be dependent on how clear and concise the materials are that are presented to it on that subject. My experience is that if they're not that way, we will spend a lot of time asking questions and other things and sort of mull around that wouldn't necessarily be or wouldn't be necessary. We get as city council people a packet of stuff. My current one's about 3/4 of an inch thick for next Tuesday. And some of it is very much pro forma stuff like payrolls and those kinds of things, but a lot of it requires study and other reference. So the assumption that all city council will be as knowledgeable as you are on these things is not necessarily warranted. And that's, I'm not pointing at my colleagues, but I know the amount of work that it takes to be on top of multiple issues, because that won't be the only thing we consider on the 20th. So I make that point to beg of you to make it clear and concise, because that will get city council action much more quickly.
Thank you, Councilmember Jacobson. Chair Westberg, if I might, the motions tonight are not necessarily the motions that City Council will ask to make and approve on April 20th. These are your motions tonight, and that's why the language is appropriate to the commission's abilities. But on April 20th, during the regular business meeting, I expect the motion for City Council will read something like move to endorse the strategy. And then the second one will be move to approve the appropriation of the recreation reserved funds per the 2021 budget. And there are about $400,000 that were reserved as part of the budget development process for 2021. And they're waiting for that appropriation to be made. So City Council's motion will be a little bit different. It'll just be to approve the appropriation of the set aside funds.
Well, I believe you're gonna have to have a budget amendment to do that if it's properly done.
I believe it was already done as part of the budget, so my understanding is it just needs the action to appropriate it. It was already part of the approved budget.
Okay, I'll check on that.
So will we, I
Uh,
promise. We'll get it right.
Commissioner Struck has a question.
Yes, Peter Struck. I don't really have a question. I just a couple of comments. First, in regard to the motions, I support those. I think, again, we need to, move forward as quickly as possible. I've made that comment before. And then secondly, to maybe just tag along with what Councilmember Jacobson discussed. I think when we go to the City Council on the 20th, I think we've got really two audiences. One is the City Council, and clearly they're going to be concerned about funding and I think some of the kind of infrastructure discussion and so forth. But then we also have the kind of the community members, I call our end consumers. And I think one of the things that would be very helpful really for both of those groups is to be able to have a chart, swim lanes, whatever, however you want to do it, to kind of say we really have three phases here, right? We've got now accelerated 1, 2, and 3. Well, under accelerated 1, I mean, what percentage or how much of the kind of getting back to full speed are we going to accomplish? Is it 20%, 40%, 10%? I think that would be helpful just as a big picture, and then you could kind of tag on second and third, because it really it shows the community how quickly we're going to get back. Because I think, again, for many community members, they have their favorite activity at the community center, or they using particular facilities within the park system and so forth. And they're going to kind of say, well, if it's closed now or not available, when is it going to be? So they might not be looking at the big picture, but I think it just would be helpful to kind of understand how quickly we can get back. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Struck. We'll look at what we can do that helps tell that story. I want to also encourage all of you to keep in mind that it's not a restart, it's a reset. And so getting back to where you were, including offering every program that has been offered in the past, is not necessarily the intent of the reset strategy. Over time, we hope to be able to add back popular programs and then also be responsive to new demands and add new programs and services. So I think it's going to be really important for us, if we're going to be successful with implementing the strategy, to make sure that we're doing it with those same goals and considerations in mind.
This is Commissioner Struck. Just to respond, I hear what you're saying. Again, I think some of the nuances you're talking about, are probably going to get lost in the greater community. And again, the more kind of tangible things you can tell them, I think the better off you're going to be. Would be my final comment. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from other commissioners? This is Commissioner Westberg, and I would just say that I support the comment made by Commissioner Cohen about concerning the language of the second potential motion, and which would be to drop the word consider and change the word allocating to allocate. It's more clear to me and more direct in terms of what our recommended action is. That said, let's proceed then. If the commission is ready to address these motions, and what I would propose we do is do them individually. So 3 motions, 3 votes, making the vote on each one clear, just in case anybody has reservations about any aspect of this. And I hope the rest of the commission agrees with that. So, and if you don't, please let me know, raise your hand, whatever. Commissioner Cohen.
Don Cohen, on number 3, would it be consistent, Rory, with your thinking that if someone made that motion, it would be approve the recommendation memo with the Scrivener edits described to the commission and authorize the chair, something like that?
Might I ask?
Go ahead.
Actually, that gets tagged on to motion number 1 because the Scrivener's errors are in the strategy itself,
Oh.
not necessarily the memo. But thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Yes, I failed to mention that would be helpful.
Okay, good catch, Don. So since you brought that up, I'm going to ask you if you would be willing to make a motion addressing topic number 1.
Yes, it's Don Cohen. I will, I'll tell you what, could I take a run at all 3? Or do you really want to do this individually?
I guess I would ask staff whether if we do them as a collective motion, is that okay? Is that going to create any issues or problems or?
Ryan?
I don't see any issue with it. It would just be a singular motion then.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw a wrench in the works. Every city attorney has told me, don't make motions so complex. Take them one at a
Right.
time.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. So Don, why don't you, if you're willing to make,
Yeah, this is Don Cohen. I will make motion number 1 that the commission endorses the strategy for Mercer Island Community Center and hold on a minute, I've got my screen up. Community Center and Recreation Programs and Services with the Scrivener edits described to the commission and recommend City Council's endorsement of the same.
great, thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second. Jody McCarthy.
Okay, would the city admin clerk please call the roll?
Chair Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Richter,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald,
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. Moving to the second item, would somebody please make a motion with the language altered following the discussion we just had?
I'll do it, Rory. This is Jody McCarthy.
Okay,
I make a motion to recommend City Council allocate all resources necessary to successfully implement the Phase 1 accelerated proposal.
thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second. Sarah Birkenwald.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, Merrill, would you please call the roll?
Chair Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Richter,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald,
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, approve the recommendation memo, authorize the chair to transmit it to the Mercer Island City Council. The chair will entertain a motion for item number 3. Don't be shy.
This is Amy Richter. I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion for the commission to approve the recommendation memo and authorize the chair to transmit it to the Mercer Island City Council.
Thank you, Commissioner Richter. Do I have a second?
Sarah Birkenwald. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Sarah. Merrill, will you again take the roll?
Chair Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Richter,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald,
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much, commissioners. I think I commend your efforts in working through all of the information that we had to address related to the strategy for the community center and rec programs. I think it was a lot of detail, a lot of information, but I think it is getting us to a good place, and these motions will help move this process forward. So thank you very much.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you all, and we'll look forward to the meeting on the 20th.
Thank you. So the third item of business is regarding the Luther Burbank docks. And we welcome Paul West.
Good evening, Paul West, CIP Project Manager. Tonight we're going to go over the work of the subcommittee in its last meeting, which was the week after your regular March 4th meeting. And the subcommittee considered 4 topics, 3 of which are documented in the staff report. One topic was that was discussed but not documented in the staff report was Commissioner Cohen's concerns about the access for non-boaters to the docks, and that will cover that in our discussion, I believe. But to just briefly summarize what the subcommittee recommends from its meeting, the full commission, commissioner had suggested that the subcommittee consider whether covered areas might be part of the concept design. And the subcommittee declined to add covered areas to the design. They felt that that portable canopies could address the needs for programming, and that permanent or seasonal canopies were not really useful or desirable.
Excuse me, Paul, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Commissioner has his raised hand button on. Do you have a question, Don, or a comment?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Oh.
I'll get rid of it.
Sorry. Go
Great.
ahead.
The second topic was raised at the full commission meeting was whether 3 trees was the right number for the plaza. And after looking at a couple of different layouts for trees in the plaza, it was the subcommittee's recommendation that yes, 3 trees were too many trees and 1 or 2 trees would be the right number, but that they couldn't determine that without further design. So they suggested that that be developed in the 30% design process. And finally, subsequent to the subcommittee's meeting, there was a concern, or subsequent to the full commission meeting on March 4th, there was a concern raised to one commissioner about whether the bulkhead steps would be a fall hazard for children and dogs that go down those steps. And definitely a concern that we took seriously. It was my opinion that any fall hazard would be probably be addressed by building code, but that we would look at that during 30% design. And it led to a discussion about what these steps would be made of. We looked at the Clark Beach steps, which currently exist, that are made out of concrete, and at least one commissioner opined that they were pretty unsightly. And so I think that highlighted that the aesthetics of these steps is going to be important, as well as the environmental safety and functional interaction with the Hanson bollard. So we got a lot of design work to do on these steps to make them actually work. That was the total of the specific discussion that the subcommittee had. And I guess I would like to open it up or turn it back to Rory to see if there are other issues that the commission would like to raise at this point.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the conceptual design? Commissioner Cohen?
This is Don Cohen, and Paul summarized my concern. I realize that the primary focus of this project, the water side of this project, is to enhance watercraft use, but non-boaters are important also. Just as an example, I don't think of fishing as the big sport or anything, but it's an intergenerational kind of activity, just like walking out on the docks and looking out at a cormorant or looking across to Bellevue or something like that would be. I think I understand a little better now from information from staff about what a non-boater can do or is contemplated to do where and on which docks. So for example, the breakwater, I understand, is contemplated to have a concrete surface. And that I don't have a feeling about that one way or another. What I have mentioned to staff is that the cables that that hold down the breakwater, I hope that the design will keep in mind what happened at Groveland, because the west of the dock, breakwaters there, and the cables that secure them make it virtually impossible to cast a lure there. So that whole opportunity has been lost at Groveland. And I know we've got to anchor the breakwater. I know that's important for a whole bunch of things that we have in mind, but I hope that the design people will keep in mind that can be a problem. The other certain new surfaces, I understand, will be a grating of some sort, and staff has some information from the design people indicating that we shouldn't be too concerned about water splashing up and making it difficult for non-boaters to use those, just because of they're being to the lee of the breakwater and the height that they're at. But that was a concern that I had also. And again, I do realize that we're trying to accommodate some differing interests or in some way, and I realize what the primary focus of this is. But as the design proceeds, I hope we'll keep in mind these things. And when we get specifically to the memo to consider it, to go, I'm gonna have one phrase that I'm going to recommend adding, but I can wait on that. But just that just has the commission, I'll tell you later if you want, has the commission recognizing that both both watercraft and non-watercraft uses are deemed, are important from the commission's point of view. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Does anyone else have a comment? This is Commissioner Westberg. In response to Commissioner Cohen's comments, I would say that on behalf of the subcommittee that we recognize there will be boating use of the docks. It occurs now and is very popular. And our intent, certainly in focusing on the boating needs of the dock rehab, was in no way intended to discourage non-boating use. The fact is, or we hope, I guess, that once the docks are restored and we have replacement docks for the South Pier, that it'll be attractive to all types of users, and including non-boating users. There may be competition for the available space. Who knows? I don't think so. I don't think so much on the North Pier, because although we'll improve the stability and the moorage potential, the temporary moorage potential on the North Pier, the fact is it won't be protected by breakwater, and so it still won't present a real desirable location to tie up a large boat for very long. But I think that non-boating use will be important, will continue, and will be welcome on a renovated dock. Commissioner Struck.
Yes, Peter Struck, just to add on to what Rory said as a member of the subcommittee as well, you know, with Commissioner Cohen's comments, and I appreciate them. With the addition now of the south docks being floating docks, I think that, again, for most boats, I can't speak for everybody, that, you know, given a choice, they would probably want to go to those docks just because of the floating nature of it, as opposed to the, you know, remaining fixed nature of the north docks. So we'll see, but I think that you know, we'll just have to see kind of how everything shakes out. But we clearly want to have encourage uses by both boaters and non-boaters on those docks. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, what I would like to do then is take similar action to what we did with with the previous item of business, and that is to address motions separately. The first being a motion to approve the concept design as presented in the materials that you received for this meeting. And then we'll address a motion of the recommendation memo to City Council. So would anyone like to make a motion that we approve the concept design for the Luther Burbank docks as presented to the Park and Recreation Commission?
Do that. Amy Richter, I make a motion to approve the concept design as presented to the Parks Commission in the April 1st meeting.
Thank you, Amy. Is there a second?
I'll second. Sarah Birkenwald.
Thank you, Sarah. Will city staff please call the roll?
Chair Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Richter,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald,
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Thank you very much. Proceeding to the next item of business, which related to this topic, which is the recommendation memo to City Council. Commissioner Cohen has his hand up and would like to address a potential change to that memo. So Commissioner Cohen, go ahead.
Yeah, this Don Cohen, rather than do this as a motion and then an amendment to a motion, here's what I would like to see. If I'm looking now at the draft memo, and on the third paragraph under summary recommendation, the second sentence presently reads, no, I'm sorry, third sentence presently reads, the master plan intended the waterfront to work together as a whole to support boating programs as well as non-boating uses. I would put a comma there and say, both of which the commission recognizes as important. So that's what I had in mind.
So
Noted.
okay, are there any other proposed changes or questions about the proposed addition by Commissioner Cohen? Seeing none, so this motion would be to approve the recommendation memo to City Council with the proposed addition by Commissioner Cohen. The chair will entertain a motion to that effect. Commissioner Struck.
Yes, I hereby recommend that the memo as amended per Commissioner Cohen's comments be approved
And forwarded to City Council.
and forwarded. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, just to clarify. Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Amy Richter, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Richter. Merrill, will you please do the roll call?
Chair Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Richter,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Birkenwald,
Aye.
Commissioner Struck.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Again, it's great to see this project moving forward, hopefully to 30% design in the near term. And we'll have, I'm sure we'll have a lot of other opportunities to take a look at this project and as it progresses. So thank you again. At this point, why don't we take a 5-minute break and try to reconvene at 6:30 to get through the rest of the agenda. And you can turn off your video. Okay, I think we're ready to get going again. The fourth item of business concerns the proposed playground renovation in Mercerdale Park. And we welcome Chief of Operations, Jason Kintner, for that presentation.
Good evening, commissioners. Thumbs up on sharing my screen. Perfect, thank you. I'm Jason Kintner. I'm the Chief of Operations, and with me this evening is Paul West, our CIP project manager. And we just have a few slides to provide an update on the Mercerdale Park Playground project. We know your inboxes has been receiving quite a few emails back and forth regarding this important project. So just to familiarize everyone, again, this is the Mercerdale Park Playground, otherwise known as Train Park. Here's a picture of it. A couple key features to recognize in this picture. One is the fact that it's got this concrete retaining wall around the outside edge, and there's actually a concrete wall that runs right through the middle of the playground as well. This is the current condition. Well, maybe not quite today since we've had a couple days of sun, but as we know, the playground has been flooding since last winter. This playground was actually installed in 2002, and the typical average lifespan of a playground is about 20 years. So we're right at the end of that useful life. Playgrounds are also a pretty important piece of our park environment, where they get inspected on a routine basis by our certified inspectors, and deficiencies and flaws and the data that goes along with those evaluations leads into a replacement strategy for playgrounds. And this playground, given its age, condition, and the material type, has definitely shown its signs beyond just the flooding of the park playground area that is needed for replacement. And so it was scheduled for replacement as part of our capital improvement program. So again, just a quick timeline. The playground was installed in 2002. And last winter, we started having flooding issues. And we began working on the redesign and replacement of that playground actually last year. It was proposed in the capital budget and was actually funded in the 2021 and 2022 capital improvement program. So this year, funded for construction this year. We met with MIPA as early as last year in the fall of 2020. MIPA is Mercerdale Preschool Association. And we've conducted a public meeting on February 8th, and we have a second public meeting upcoming on April 14th. So what we've heard from not only MIPA, but others is that we want the playground to be accessible to a wide range of users. It needs to be an inclusive play style, provide different levels of developmental challenges, needs to be fun and inviting, and we've definitely heard that we want to keep the train theme at the park. A couple pieces to note is playgrounds they usually have two types of age ranges for playgrounds. There's a 2 to 5 age range. So most of the equipment is geared towards 2 to 5, and there's a 5 to 12 age range. Sort of the two buckets of age ranges that equipment is designed for. So we're looking for a playground that has a blend of both those age ranges as well as many different types of play to provide different challenges and recreational opportunities for not only our youth, but also the parents and grandparents that take kids out to the playground as well. We want to get this done. We've all been bottled up for over a year now. Things are starting to slowly reopen. And as we all know, the gray winters tend to get the best of us Washingtonians. And when the sun comes out, we want to get out there. I know I want to get out in parks with my kids. So that is a priority for us. So we've been, as we said, we started this project last year, working through some of the early design features of it with the intent to get this playground replaced this summer so that it could be used during the summer months when it's nice out. We are looking for a cost-effective playground. We're going to utilize the KCDA purchasing co-op, which allows us to use a contract that's already in place to procure playground equipment that will provide the best bang for the buck for the playground equipment itself. We've used this purchasing co-op for other park projects such as the Island Crest synthetic turf. It's a very popular piece to do with school districts and other city jurisdictions around the region. Other things we've heard from the community is there's environmental considerations that need to be taken into effect. Materials need to be non-toxic, sustainable, and then obviously want to preserve our park and open space. So on a playground, there's many different types of equipment that can be installed that touch on different types of movement, from slides to spinners, climbing apparatuses, jumping, balancing. There's simple features is like rocks tend to be, stationary rocks tend to be pretty popular in some playgrounds. The best playgrounds that we have found tend to have components of each of those different types of movements. We also like to have imaginative, social interactions, provide opportunities for music and art, sensory, and obviously the involvement with nature. However, with these different types of playground pieces, because of the safety standards and that safety inspection program that is part of the installation process, each type of play has a different fall zone rating. Some safety features allow, as you can see in the picture here, they allow a certain blending or crossover of fall zones, while others do not. Things like slides and swings tend to have a very specific fall zone or a safe zone to protect kids and users and park users from being hurt on the playground. So with those different types of play on an existing footprint of a concrete retaining wall, it presents some pretty significant challenges to get a design that includes every type of play with the fall zones that overlap and what don't overlap within the existing footprint. The ADA is a minimum standard for us to achieve for accessibility. It is just one single component of an inclusive playground. Again, I mentioned an inclusive playground includes not only the kids that are playing out there of all capabilities and abilities, but it also involves parents, grandparents, other siblings, everyone. The idea behind an inclusive playground is for everyone to participate and enjoy the features together. The other piece to note, as there are some questions regarding the public over the installation of some shade features or roofing over some of the proposed playground designs. That's not necessarily for the winter months, for the rain and the snow. In fact, a lot of times those features come down in the fall and winter months to preserve them. But a lot of times these playgrounds are in the direct sun. They're made of materials of plastics and metals, and they can become very, very hot. And so by adding shade elements, it allows opportunities for the playground equipment to stay cool, as well as it provides a shelter for kids and other users to find opportunities to take a few moments in the shade without being in the direct sun all day. So that is a new feature that we are starting to see in more playgrounds around the Northwest as well. Where are we going? We have a public meeting on April 14th. This will be on the Zoom platform, and it's designed for adults and children. We really want to see the kids participate in the Zoom meeting. I will say during the Upper Luther Burbank bike meeting, we had both parents and kids participate. The kids, I bring my kids over to look at playground designs, and they can tell me right off the bat what they like and what they don't like. Getting kids involved in the process is really important. So we're looking for parents to help kids get online, April 14th meeting, to provide input on different topics. Some of the topics that we have teed up include the different types of designs, whether it's a single structure that has its own sort of fall zone and functionality around a single piece versus having a ground-based design which has different connections via ramps and climbers and things like that that go from structure to structure. We're looking for input on the different types of play that's being offered in the design, as well as the all-important color palette. There's lots of opinions on what colors work and what colors don't, as well as surfacing and then specific equipment preferences. We will be back to the Parks Commission on May 6th to provide a report regarding the April 14th public meeting. which we will be including that public input into the draft design. And we will be looking for feedback from the commissioners to revise the design for consideration by the city council. It is likely that the playground will go to the city council in May for an appropriation request and authorization to construct. Even with the KCDA purchasing co-op, the lead time for playground equipment is anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks once we have the design finalized. So as I mentioned, if we're trying to get this playground done for the summer months, we're on a pretty short time frame to finalize the design so that we can get the equipment ordered. Again, once we get the public input and we provide an updated design, we'll also include an updated timeline for the playground itself so that we can get everyone on the same page regarding a realistic implementation schedule. And with that, I will stop sharing, and Paul and I are both here to help answer any questions.
Commissioner Richter.
Hi, Amy Richter. Thanks, Jason. That was a really good presentation. I appreciate all the background and detail that you shared. A comment and a question. So I've been reading that in the last meeting in February, people were concerned there was only, I think I read the number 12 people who were there. So I was just thinking about ways in which we could drive the public outreach to get people to come. And one of the things I heard you say was playground, this is going to target not only the 2 to 5, which is great. I see that the MIPA folks are here in the meeting. That's awesome. And they're really engaged. And then there's that 6 to 12-year-old. And so I was thinking it might be an opportunity, and I'd be glad to help with this, to get it posted throughout the elementary school PTA newsletters to let them know about the meeting on April 14th. 14th, yes. So
That'd be fabulous.
Yeah, so I can reach out to you offline and help get that information out there to them. And then the other question I had was, I may have missed it, so I apologize. The cement wall that cannot be removed?
So that's a really good question. We are trying to stay within the constraints of the outer wall of the playground itself. When we start moving beyond that wall, the playground enlarges and we have what we call scope creep. Wearing my public works hat as well, I will also tell you that there is a sewer main that runs right through the middle of Mercerdale Park that is on a replacement cycle. And so if you are going to start enlarging the footprint of the playground, then we want to take care of that sewer project as well. And so your time frame for constructability of this playground just grew exponentially, because I can tell you that sewer pipe replacement isn't on a 2021 or 22 design and construction cycle. It's probably a 2023 to 2026 timeframe. And so we are trying to stay within the footprint of the playground itself. There's a concrete wall that runs through the middle of the playground.
That's the one that I was interested in, yeah.
So what Paul and the design team have been working with is to remove that wall, or elevate the surface above the wall, basically eliminate that as a barrier so that you can actually fit more pieces in the outer wall within the constraints of the outer wall constructability moving forward.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up, or should I wait? Just on
No,
the
you can ask a
sewer.
follow-up.
Okay, so you said that they've got that sewer main running underneath the park. So if we build the new park and implement the new park this year, does it then, it doesn't get ripped up in 4 years when you do the sewer? How does that work?
So the sewer main runs, I'd have to go out and locate it specifically, but it runs more towards the middle of the park. And so if you start enlarging that footprint, then the area in which the sewer main would have to be replaced down the road, again, this was identified in the general sewer plan. If you encroach into that, then we would have to do it, right? We're trying to avoid that work. So stay in the footprint of the existing playground structure itself, and we won't have to worry about it because the sewer main's outside of that down the road. When you start enlarging the footprint, then we run into issues in the future.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gualtieri.
Hi, this is Lynn Gualtieri. I have a couple questions. So are we replacing the whole playground because of the flooding? Or also because the equipment is at the end of its life? And if so, what, I was just curious how you tell if playground equipment is at the end of its life. And then why is it flooding? What's the substrate? And how do we know this isn't going to happen again? Or is it because of the wood chips? I know that whole, I saw that whole
Great
email chain, wood chips versus, but like, why is it happening now? Is it just pores are clogged up or, yeah. So those are my two questions.
Great questions. And so as part of the inspection process that our parks maintenance staff that are certified to do this, they're part of the, it's called CPSI, Certified Playground Inspection Program. It's part of the National Parks and Recreation Association. They go out and they evaluate these playgrounds on a routine basis. And it's anything from the condition of the slides, whether the slide has cracks in it, whether it's missing hardware, whether the platform itself is starting to degrade. It's a very detailed inspection. And as part of that inspection process, you start to recognize that the wear patterns in the metal rings and the bolts and the other features that hold the playground together start deteriorating over time. And you can replace them to a certain point in time, but once the hardware is easy to replace, but the platforms themselves, the rest of the physical structure starts to break down in time as well. And so the driver of the replacement was, we knew this playground was nearing the end of its useful life. We have the information from the inspection reports that's showing that, yes, this playground is showing its signs of wear and tear, and it's got an increased maintenance history associated to it. And then on top of it, it floods. And so you all of a sudden it's ripe for replacement because all those components are working into, yeah, it's time to replace this playground. As far as the drainage goes, there is drainage underneath that existing facility, but it is plugged up so that the wood chips over time, they break down and they become like a really solid mush in the corrugated pipe that's beneath that playground. And it just doesn't allow the water to drain freely out of the playground anymore. So part of this project is once the playground's removed, the wood chips will be excavated and they'll go through and clear the pipes or replace the pipes and get the drainage to be flowing again.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Thank you, Jody McCarthy. So you mentioned about the sewer pipe running through the middle of the park. And then I was talking with someone today and they were saying that that park wasn't always natural, that it was something before. So it wasn't always originally just natural land. So can you speak a little bit to that, please?
Paul, I think you have the history of the park better than I do, but yes, it was used. The school district owned the property before, and then there was also some other history to it as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm not totally clear on it, but I think it was used as a dump or landfill at one point. It was, I know that whole slope was severely regraded prior to 1960. And I don't know why, but if you look at the air photos, you can see there was a lot of land moving that happened.
And as far as the sewer pipe goes too, yeah, we haven't located that specifically as part of the design process. We know it runs through the middle of the park. The depth of it, we know the size and the condition of the pipe, but the depth of it, what size trench and things like that, that would be part of the design process that hasn't taken place yet. This is a pipe that was identified during the general sewer plan in 2018. That was one of the pipes that was undersized and needed to be replaced. And so that is on our sewer utilities body of work to do. But again, it's downstream of this biennium.
Okay, so Mercerdale Park is reclaimed land, basically, that's been turned into a park, is what you're saying. Okay,
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Struck.
Thank you. So Jason, I'm not totally clear. Is the staff expecting the commission to make a recommendation to city council on this project, or is it just more of a FYI kind of thing?
So at this point in time, our intention is to come back with public comment and the input that was received at the April 14th meeting. I will tell you, it's generated quite a bit of buzz in the community this week, and it is not a normal process for us to come back and ask for the commission to weigh in on a park playground project design. However, because of the buzz associated to it, we will be bringing back the information from the public input. A formal recommendation from the commission regarding the design, I don't know yet. I think that's a TBD, depending on how the commission or the public meeting goes on April 14th and where we land on the design. I think ultimately at the end of the day, we do want the commission's input. Ultimately, we're looking for the public input that was received and whether or not we incorporated those different components into the playground design, and the commission feels that we generated that type of redesign or public input into the design, I think is what we're looking for at the May PRC meeting. But no,
Thank you. The reason I asked that question is that, you know, I think of the Luther Burbank Docks project. And again, there was a fair amount of comment from the community about, you know, what should be there, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, you know, the commission had a very robust and thoughtful process. And I think we ended up with a very good finished product that, you know, met most community needs. And so if we wanted the commission, in my opinion, to kind of come up with a full recommendation, I would think you'd want to, because there's a lot of competing needs here and views, that we'd want to go through a similar type of process. Now, I understand that would be a little bit more time consuming, but I think, you know, perhaps in the end, you end up with a better project than if you know, people, if certain community members are, that's the thrust of my question. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Westberg. I'm going to sort of take off from Commissioner Struck's comment to it and ask you, Jason, where would you describe where you are as far as your conceptual design? I mean, you're not starting from ground zero at this point.
Yeah, so
what, 50%?
There's been a conceptual design. That's a great question. There's been a conceptual design. There's been specific input that we've received from MIPA and others that has included some specificity around the types of play features and, you know, whether or not this specific feature works or it doesn't work. I think we are slowing this down. So if you'd asked me a week ago, to be perfectly honest with you, I think we were off on a design that was nearing its end of its design process. So we were getting ready to make the decision on, yes, this design was ready to go, and this, and start moving through that process with the council. The feedback that we've gotten this week has caused us to pause, and I think rightfully so, to reevaluate. And I think that's where the public input's going to be. It's going to be interested to glean that input to determine whether or not we are still on the right path or not, whether or not we need to go back to the drawing board. So I think that April 14th meeting will be really important to see whether or not we have to go back over and redesign part of it, or whether or not we can continue on a streamlined path. To Commissioner Struck's point, yes, the Luther Dock process has been very successful. I 100% agree. And if we come out of the April 14th meeting and we are really at a loss, if the community is sort of all over the map in terms of what type of playground we're looking for, that would be a process that I think that we would recommend and pursue. But again, the implications behind it are that's going to slow the constructability down significantly. And we will be without a playground at Mercerdale Park this summer, because that playground, as it stands now, needs to be removed. It is a safety hazard. That is why it is coned off or flagged off. And so trying to set realistic expectations, that's not what anybody wants to do. But from a safety standpoint, we would have to remove it. Again, the April 14th meeting will be very helpful to see where we're at in the process and whether or not we need to go back and do some additional design work.
Well, so perhaps then that when for this group in early May, the discussion there might focus more on where are you in your process, and in the judgment of the commission, has the community been heard, rather than having the commission look at specific design elements in your proposal. Because I agree with Commissioner Struck. I mean, we've gone through a process on the docks where it's sort of built up to that point, and there's been a lot of input. And this one's kind of new to us, and I don't think any of us are playground experts. I'd have to consult with my granddaughter to see what she thinks. But so maybe that's the way we would frame that presentation. Is
That's great feedback.
how does that sit with you, Peter?
Yeah.
You're breaking up. We can't hear
Right,
you. Audio.
Peter. Yeah, I think that's fine, Rory. I think that can you hear me now?
No, we can't hear you at all. Well, we can get back to that. I would just like to make one other comment.
Can you hear
on
me
this
now?
more-
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I can.
Still, we still can't hear you. So while you're dealing with that, I'd just like to make one other comment based on some of the email traffic that I saw related to this issue, and that is reference to a policy that this body, this commission, has supposedly adopted relating to no net increase in impervious surface in city parks. And I'm making this comment more not for commissioners, because we have not adopted any such policy, nor do we adopt policies. That's not really our role. But what we have done is look very carefully at the implications for new impervious surfaces and the projects that have come before us, and have gone out of our way to try to find other more environmentally friendly alternatives to such materials or installations. So, and I think we'll continue to do that. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Peter, are you back? Or Lynn, go ahead.
Hi, this is Lynn Gualtieri. Jason, I was curious about the format of the public meeting. Are you going to show them the concept design, and how is it, is it just like a free for all? Or I vaguely remember when they redid the Luther Burbank playground that there was like a scale model or something in the community center for a long time, and I remember voting on certain elements. So what's the format of that public meeting?
Good question. So for those of you who participated in the pros plan discussion last week, we are going to be using the Zoom platform, and we will be doing, we will have the conceptual design available, and we'll talk to it. We'll probably do some playground 101 stuff like you heard me talk about today, because I think that's important in trying to understand the design elements associated with replacing a playground. We will talk about the design that's been drafted, but then we would like to focus on those specific areas I went through today, whether it's surfacing, whether it's the color palette, what different types of play do we want to include. And we're going to utilize the polling feature via the Zoom platform to try and solicit that feedback, as well as open up the chat so that people can, those who do want to provide free form response can do such in a chat without taking over the entire meeting as well. So that's going to be the approach for the April 14th meeting.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Thank you, Jody McCarthy. I just wanted to say that I went to where I Zoomed the meeting at the beginning of February and participated in that public meeting with Paul. And while there was 12 people on it, those 12 people actually were representing a bunch of different groups on Mercer Island in terms of MIPA and different things like that. So there was actually a lot of people that were made aware of the meeting and had a chance to participate in it. And I really appreciate how the city has embraced inclusivity for the playground and trying to make this a place where everybody feels welcome and has things that they can do. Thank you.
Commissioner Richter.
Hi, Amy Richter. Jason, will the April 14th meeting require registration like the pros plan open house?
Paul was shaking his head, so I'll let him answer that.
Paul West, CIP manager. We were not anticipating that. We were anticipating doing it like the first February meeting where people can just show up. And the way we'll control access is really just with a waiting room. And we'll have facilitation if anybody is not cooperating with the flow of the process, they'll be asked to leave. So we're not expecting to need to do pre-registration.
So will the link be on Let's Talk? The link to enter the Zoom?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It was actually the link to the meeting page where the Let's Talk link is already on Let's Talk. It's a little complicated, but you can get it with a couple clicks.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Jason before we let him go? Okay, thank you, Jason, very much for that presentation. Our fifth item of business is a update on the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting schedule. And Ryan's going to lead us through that one.
Right. I actually do not have any updates for the meeting schedule at this time. You guys are right on track with where we said we'd be in January. So excellent job on that. A lot of commission hours and hard work went into getting us to where we're coming out today. So just want to give another kudos to the commission on all of that and all of the engagement that has occurred there. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Rory.
Okay, well, I'm going to pass it back to you because
that's true.
Business is the department report and update, and you're on the hook for that. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep the efficiency of this meeting moving, and I only have a couple of slides. You guys have the commission has covered a lot of the hot topics within the agenda tonight. So let me share this really quick. All right, is that showing up for you? All right, I see a thumbs up from Jody, so we'll run with that. So first off, we have a new Parks Operations Manager. You may recall Elaine Summergren served in this role previously. She has transitioned to the Deputy Director of Public Works. Sam Harb is stepping in, and Sam's been with us for about 6 years. He's been on the customer response team for most of that. And then just recently he was serving as the sewer foreman. So believe me, we're not letting Sam off easy. We're going to get him in front of this group very soon, introduce himself and share a little bit about frankly what we're doing in the parks to prepare for summer. As you'll recall, last summer was drastically different staffing wise, and so Sam is stepping up and leading that team. So I just wanted to highlight that because he'll be a new face you see out in the park system. Pros plan, we talked just recently, obviously, about the March 23rd meeting. I think from staff's point of view, it went very smoothly. Thank you for the commissioners who were able to take part. Those who weren't, the key focus was really on 3 topics, which was waterfront and beaches, trails, and balanced park usage. So we had very good conversations within, I think we had 12 different breakout groups. So it was very well attended. Great comments. Our consultants and staff right now are compiling the information that we gained through that. And then when we come back, we'll be coming back to the Parks and Recreation Commission with an update on May 6th. We'll discuss the potential for a second survey if there's a need there, what questions the commission may want to ask or may need additional information on. So look forward to that May 6th meeting with another update on the pros plan and what the process will move forward with as we move through the planning. Boards and commissions, we do have, I believe, 2 vacancies coming up. The deadline to apply is also May 6th. So if you are interested in reapplying, please do so. Also for the general community, the link is below on how to go through that process. Summer camps. I just have to highlight this because registrations are flowing. It's going really, really well. So I just have to give Katie Herzog, she had to jump off this call, but she should receive a lot of credit for a lot of hard work. She put together the camp offerings. I will say our kayak and paddleboard camps are by far the leaders right now. They're getting very close to full, if not full already. And then tennis and golf is also the other offering that is receiving a lot of attention right now. But across the board, we're seeing really strong numbers coming through. So we look to see that continue as we have days like we had this week where the sun's out and people are starting to think about summer. So you'll see a lot more marketing and whatnot that'll be going out toward those. And then I'll also say, if you recall, we moved forward with adding a recreation specialist who will actually be supervising these programs throughout the summer. I will introduce you to him when he comes on board in the next week, I believe. So more to come. It's exciting as we're moving forward with that immediate action plan to see recreation happening. It's just it feels good to see that occurring in the parks, and especially with programs that are coordinated by our team. So with that was pretty quick, but you all talked about the other 3 key issues that we've been dealing with. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. That was great. Okay, our 7th and last item of business are any commissioner reports or work plan updates. So this is the opportunity for commissioners to briefly share experiences they recently had within a park or at a Parks and Recreation program or event, or to receive information from staff and fellow commissioners regarding work plan updates or potential. So if you have anything to report, push your raise hand button and I will call on you. Okay, seeing none for this item, I will remind you that our next regular Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is May 6th at 5:30. And don't forget the special joint meeting with City Council on April 20th. And the time is now 7:10 and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast and gives us a thumbs up.